I am making a relinquished deck profile. Relinquished has been a monster I've always liked since Starter Deck Pegasus was released, and even when during the episode of season 1 when Yugi faces Yugi faces Pegasus. But ever since Relinquished was played in that, I've always loved the monster and figured why not make an updated Relinquished deck profile. So starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Relinquished. Relinquished has the effect of once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls and equip itself with that monster, where its attack and defense then becomes the same as that monster's attack and defense. And if we have one monster equipped by that effect at a time, and then if it would be destroyed in battle, you destroy the equipped monster instead, and your opponent would take any battle damage from battles involving it that you would take instead, while it has a monster equipped. Also, it cannot, in order to special summon it, you first have to summon it off of the Black Illusion ritual. Then I play 3 copies of Jester Confine. Jester Confine is great in this deck because as long as you don't control Jester Confine, you can just special summon it for free. Then I play 3 copies of Golden Eye's Idol. Golden Eye's Idol has the effect of once per turn you can look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, its name becomes Thousand Eyes Idol. And then, if it is sent to the grave by a card effect, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls and equip it to an Ice Restrict monster you control as if it was equipped by its own effect. So typically, you'll use its effect. It'll typically end up being negated by an effect veiler or an infinite impermanence, which you don't mind because that just means you got a negate out of the way for when you summon Millennium Eyes. Then I play 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Illusionist. Illusionist has the effect of as a quick effect, you can discard it to target one effect monster your opponent controls and equip it to an Eyes Restrict monster you control. And if a Eyes Restrict or Relinquished monster is summoned while it's in your graveyard, it has the mandatory ability of returning itself back to your hand. You can use each effect once per turn. Then I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just because why not run one of the best hand traps in the game. Then I do play 3 copies of Radiant, the multi-dimensional kaiju, and 3 copies of Jizukiru, the star-destroying kaiju. I play these just because that way you can give your opponent a big monster to then take with a Relinquished or Eyes Restrict monster. Although, I would play Thunder King over multi-dimensional kaiju, but I don't have any Thunder Kings, and these are just the 2 strongest kaijus I have 3 of. And that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, I play 1 copy of Instant Fusion, so you can special summon Thousand Eyes Restrict or Millennium Eyes. And it's destroyed during the end phase, but the best part is it's treated as a fusion summon, so it still lets you special summon the monster back later. Then I play the 1 copy of Monster Reborn, just so you can bring back Relinquished or an Eyes Restrict monster, since they are the boss monsters of this deck. Then I play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. It is so hilarious to use this card to take control of an opponent's monster as a level, and then either use it for a fusion summon or use it for a ritual summon. But if your opponent activates a monster effect during your turn, then you can activate this to either shuffle 1 card from your opponent's hand into the deck of your choice. You can draw 2 cards or take control of an opponent's monster until the end of the turn. Then I play 3 copies of Black Illusion Ritual. Figured might as well play 3 of these if I'm playing 3 copies of Relinquished. Then I play 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. Pre-preparation of Rites lets you add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and then lets you search for a ritual monster that's name is listed in that ritual spell's text. Then I play 3 copies of Relinquished Fusion. This just lets you fusion summon an Ice Restrict fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your hand, field, and or graveyard, and then during the main phase, you can banish this from your graveyard to then equip You target one effect monster your opponent controls and equip it to an eyes restrict monster as if it was, or relinquished as if it was equipped by its own effect. You can only use each effect once per turn. So I like this because this deck also has a bunch of ways to equip your copies of Millennium Eyes Restrict or Thousand Eyes Restrict or even Relinquished with more monsters. Then I play 3 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, just that you can be certain you give your opponent a kaiju and the ability to search for a kaiju later. Because Interrupted Kaiju Slumber lets you banish itself from the grave to then search for a kaiju monster from your deck, but you can only use that effect on the turn other than the turn it was sent to the graveyard. But in order for it to summon 2 kaijus, it first has to destroy at least 1 monster in play. But when activated, it destroys all monsters in play. Then to finish off the main deck, I played 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence just can activate from your hand while you control no cards. And it can just target one monster effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects. That is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. Because it is a relinquished deck, I did max out on 3 copies of Relinquished Anima. Anima has the effect of when it's summoned, or just once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls that this card points to, and equip that monster to this card. It then gains that monster's attack. It regains speculatively equipped monsters. And it can only be equipped with 1 monster at most. So with cards like Relinquished Anima and Relinquished, if they have cards equipped to them by the effects of Millennium Eyes Illusionist or Relinquished Fusion, but while they already have a monster equipped by their own effect, then they won't gain any more attack points, which is the only sad part. Then I play 1 copy of Link Kuriboh, since this deck does play a lot of level 1s. Then I play 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Nightmare Cerberus has the effect of when it's Link summoned, you can discard a card, then target 1 special summon monster in your opponent's main monster zone, and destroy it. And then if it was Link summoned, when you activate that, or co-linked, then you get to draw 1 card. Nightmare Phoenix, the exact same thing, except you target a spell or trap. And then also they have the effect of, you remember which one does which, so I have to read real quick. Okay, Nightmare Phoenix makes co-linked monsters can't be destroyed in battle. Cerberus has the effect of co-linked monsters can't be destroyed by card effects. And the Nightmare Unicorn is the same as Phoenix and Cerberus, where you discard a card. Only this time you target a card and shuffle it back into the deck. And then during your draw phase, instead of conducting your normal draw phase, you can draw 1 card for every Nightmare that's co-linked with Unicorn other than Nightmare Unicorn. Then, moving on to the part I'm playing around with. I'm playing 1 copy of number 63, Shimoji Soldier. 1 copy of number 83, Galaxy Queen. 1 copy of number 56, Gold Rat. These 3 I'm only playing around with. If you don't want to play these, then I would suggest playing cards like Appaloosa, Borload, Boral Sword. Just good rank, or Link. Yeah, Link 4s. I'm only playing around with these because I thought they might be a cute idea since level 1 monsters, or this deck's boss monsters. But Galaxy Queen makes so you can detach material, so that until your opponent's next end phase, monsters you currently control cannot be destroyed by battle, and if they attack a monster in defense position, they inflict piercing. Gold Rat lets you use the material to then shuffle 1 card from your or draw a card and then shuffle a card from your hand into the deck. And then Shimoji Soldier has the effect of you can only use each of its effects once per turn, where you can once per turn you can detach a card from it and then activate 1 of 2 effects. At the start of your opponent's next standby phase, each player draws 1 card, or each player gains 1,000 light points. Like I said, I'm just playing around with these. but it'd probably be better to play Link or more Link monsters. But the one number in here I am playing that purposely is the one copy number 54, Lionheart. I just like this card because of how it seems bad being a rank 1 with 100 attack points until it's actually being used. Which it has the effect of, while it's in face of attack position, it can't be destroyed in battle. And then when you take battle damage from battles involving this card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of damage or battle damage you took. And then if it inflicts battle damage, and then if it battles an opponent's monster during damage calculation, you can detach one material so that your opponent takes any battle damage you would take instead, or you would take from the battle. So I just like it because you can attack a really big monster, use a material, your opponent takes the damage instead, and then if it's out of materials, you can still attack and then still be able to burn your opponent. I just like it because whenever it comes out, I'm usually winning by that point. But then I play the one copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict. This card has the effect of it negates the effects or activated effects of all other monsters in play. Other monsters on the field aren't allowed to attack. And then once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, equip it to it, and then its attack and defense becomes equal to that the equipped monster's attack and defense. Yeah, unfortunately, it does not have the same protection effect as Relinquished, because I feel like that would have made this card a lot better. But then the actual boss monster of the deck is 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict has the effect of, if your opponent activates a monster effect, then you can activate its effect, target one effect monster in your opponent's field or in their graveyard, attach it to it as material. It gains attack equal to the combined original attack and defense, or gains attack and defense equal to the combined original attack and defense of all monsters equipped to it by its own effect. And it also negates your opponent's activated monster effects of cards that have the same name as equipped cards. So if your opponent activates a Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer while you have this in play, you equip the Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer, and then it negates the Destroyer, Phoenix Enforcer. Same with hand traps. But that is it for my Relinquished deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to improve the deck, or any ideas of decks I see make, or even decks I like to see face each other, such as Relinquished versus Tune, feel free to comment those below. Thanks for watching.